Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Donald J. Brower from Garters at HS Wrestling. My third near fall podcast. Getting you ready for states. Kind of wrapping up what we're doing here with everything going on. We had a great region weekend, and now we turn our attention to the big tournament Thursday through Saturday this weekend down at Boardwalk Hall. If you haven't got your tickets to your rooms yet, you're you're out of luck. Also going to have a great interview. I'm a little excited today. A great interview with the legendary Vinnie Russo. I conducted after Region 3. This week he got inducted into this year the Morris County Hall of Fame. And he also got inducted to the Region 4 Hall of Fame later that Saturday. So great interview I have with him. And he does talk about the scenario a couple years ago with a certain referee in Southern Jersey and kind of what he would have done in the situation. But let's jump into it with the region recaps. Some of the local guys who advanced up at Region 1. Evan Mugallion from Kinnelon, great job winning 106. Teammate Justin Lockwood taking third, heading down. Sparta, the Cooper brothers. Sparta, the Stewart brothers. Cooper taking second. Spencer and Garrett taking third. Another great showing by High Point. They had Utter, they had Liebel, they had Talmadge, Gervey, and Saldana, who I think Saldana's going to make some noise down in States, all qualify. Pope John, Ventresca, Pursley, and Cement taking first, with Garcia finishing second. Pequannock, Goodwin finishing first at 195. And somebody it really impressed me this week, in a really tough weight class, Timothy Graff, fighting back, losing in the quarters, coming back, finishing fourth. It's a great job by him. Showed a lot of heart and determination getting to where he did, and basically he might have won. I'm sorry, he might have won in the quarterfinals, lost to the semi. But for him to fight back and finish fourth, it's only a great job by him. But his coaching staff. I mean, I've known that coaching staff for a very long time, and I know Coach Lepaghi does a great job. I tease him a lot and joke with him, but he did a really great job coaching that kid up. And getting him down there. So, they're going to have a great time. Butler with Redner, Krachowski, and Luciani making it down. Kittatinny with two big men going down with Mafaro and Cron, who both finished second. And Newton, Nathan Fitt, who finished second there. So, great job up at Region 1 by those teams. Region 2 at Mount Olive. You look at it, you got Stanich, who shocked me and kind of opened my eyes. Was a good wrestler. Wasn't sure if he could hang. With Bergen Catholic, winds up beating him, taking the 106 championship. And Franco Mazza, who's had an up and down season this year, he's kind of the one holdover from the previous regimes. But he fought back, finished third, heads down there. Great job by them. Montville had a great showing. Conrad finishing first, Kurzer Fox second, Teresa third. Teresa got third due to a medical forfeit by Dom Diantinis. They had wrestled each other in the MCT. Dom won. I checked with his family and his coach. He's going to be fine. Just didn't want to try and chance anything so close with states. And that's what you'll see a lot of guys who, if they're in there and they've already qualified, they just want to make sure they're healthy. They figure they can wrestle back. Mount Olive with 5 guys going down and 1 girl, as we referenced last week in our Wrestler of the Week, the first female one. Spera and Moscatello finishing second. Camoya, Ryerson, and Perez third. Great job. Lenape Valley, Daniel Hawes taking fourth. Fighting back, Booton, Joe Fungaro, and Jason Smith, fourth and third, respectively. And then some other ones. Jefferson getting down there with Austin Jack. Charlie Sabino for fourth with Mountain Lakes. David Turner, Morris Knowles finishing third. And Par Hill's getting a couple of fourth-place finishers in Nick Russo and Brandon Perot. So good job by them. Now, this has kind of been the headline, and a lot of people have been talking about Region 3. Domination by Del Barton. They had 13 finalists, 9 champions. They didn't enter a heavyweight, if anybody's curious. So heading into the finals of Region 3, amongst districts and regions, there was only one loss Del Barton suffered, and that was in the championship of District 9 with Nicholas Oliveri, who wound up coming back and avenging that. So, once again, another complete domination by Del Barton. They're going to head down there with a lot. I don't like to predict as much ahead of time, but there were at least out of those, champions. I'm looking at 4 or 5 I would consider favorites at their weight class to win it. And I wouldn't be shocked if you're talking about almost all those guys getting on the podium, this year at Del Bar. And obviously, their injuries play a key part. Just your mental mindset, just, along that. But wouldn't shock me if you Del Barton walked away with a lot of hardware this weekend. Randolph, impressive by Matt DeStefanis, who, for a lot of fans who might not know, who just want him, he wrestled his freshman year, kind of got tired of wrestling. He didn't want to be competitive anymore. He didn't like it. He didn't want to compete. And he said that. He just wasn't into trying to be in competitive sports. He did all this stuff. He stayed in school, went and got his everything, got accepted to college, and then decided with Coach Sooks last year he was going to come out. Winds up winning him an MCT, a region championship, and, has a real shot at winning it all. And you almost kind of like wonder, and you never want to look back, but if he had stayed around for the 2 years, and maybe that kind of helped him get where he's at. And he's going down there with his teammate, Cannon, who finished 4th. Hanover Park had a good showing too. Oliveri winning 1st, and Birnbaum wrestling back to finish 3rd. Good group of West Morris guys going down there. You got Eli Shepard and Colin Lofney, who finished 2nd, respectively. Michael Campanaro, 106, who finished 3rd. Michael, I saw the picture. Don't eat too much pizza. You might not make weight, but good luck down there. And Ramos and Malachi Shepard, who finished 4th. Great job. Belvedere, Lency, who actually lost to Campanaro. I expect him to get on the podium. Mendham with a great showing as well. Armijo, who I think will get on the podium. Bertha Byram and Trigali, who finished 3rd. And Schlegel, who finished 4th. Whippany Park with Savercool at 4th and Stigliano at 2nd. Stigliano, I think, has another outside shot at making the podium. He's got some tough kids with him, but I think he can wrestle back and make it. It also depends on seeding. Big shout out to Morristown for Giovanni Rivera wrestling back for 4th. That was big for the program. And Warren Hills, my alma mater, McCathern finishing 1st at heavyweight, and Malia finishing 3rd. Always good to see a Warren Hills heavyweight. I was a Warren Hills heavyweight. I was nowhere near as good, but it's great to see. And, I know his parents from high school, so it's great to see them going out there and doing it. And then heading locally to Region 5. No champions locally from Region 5, but a good representation when you look at the different brackets and who, finished where. You figure you got different guys with where, like, so for example, you're looking at a 120, Frank Diesso finishing 3rd for North Hunterdon. Nick Conica at 126 for Hunterdon Central. Connor Quinn, 132 for North Hunterdon. Tanner Peak, Hunterdon Central, 3rd place. I misspoke. Colton Wojcicki did win the region at 145. I apologize for that. Anthony Romanello, Hunterdon Central, 152, 3rd. Norman Sella, Hunterdon Central at 160. James Holder finishing 2nd at 170. Nathaniel Fawcett finishing 2nd at 182. And then you head up to the upper weights where Liam Akers finished 3rd at 285. And on a side note from Region 5, great job with the Twitter and everything by the North Hunterdon Twitter people for sending results. I was updated all weekend. So great job by them as they tweeted all the results and said everything, where they could. And, getting all that set up with everything. And just a great overall region. Great weekend to region, a great representation heading down to Atlantic City. Got a couple questions that have been asked as we switch to, kind of the question portion before we get into the interview. A lot of my predictions, people ask how I make my predictions. So what I want to do is I'm going to kind of get into my mindset of what I do with predictions. First, I always wait till they seed because you never know how people are going to seed, and you don't want to pick somebody. And I've seen it happen where people will pick 2 people to meet, and they're going to meet in the semifinals, so it's not even possible for it to be a final. So I try to respect how you look at everybody's predictions and how they're seeded. Now, sometimes the seeding could be a little skewed. For example, it was 6 years ago at the Morris County tournament. In the upper bracket, you had Shane Metzler, Gerard Angelo, and Pat Glory, and they were all going to meet before the final. So, that was kind of a weird, interesting way it was done. But I kind of look at everything, and then you kind of see who's wrestling really well. There might be some guys who surprise you. There might be maybe a deep district when you're heading into regions, to use that as an example, where maybe it's somebody who wrestled in the first, second match at districts, and they're two really good wrestlers, but that they're going to, meet, so that they might be a lower seed, they'll wrestle back. But I always try to pick the guys, the guys who I think will go out there. And anybody who says they can pick the surprises is lying. But then there's always some surprises. You kind of just have to take a gut choice and see how you work there. But I mean, that's basically what I do. I try to get a feel for it from just seeing these kids and doing that, and just kind of seeing how everything will go, and and how I think it'll go. And speaking of predictions, I will have my predictions up on the website for states. I should have it up. We're recording this Monday afternoon, so I should have them up Tuesday night. So on your way down to AC, if you're listening to this Wednesday or anything, you'll have my predictions up there. You can go check them out at MorrisCountyHSWrestling.com and such. Side note, if you try to go to GardenStateHSWrestling.com, we're doing some stuff with the website, so we're kind of migrating some stuff over. So the website is down at GardenStateHSWrestling.com, but any of the county links, like MorrisCountyHSWrestling.com, Sussex CountyHSWrestling.com, Hunterdon CountyHSWrestling.com, and Warren CountyHSWrestling.com all work. So it should be up, hopefully, but just in case you check, I don't want you to think we're out of business. Speaking a little bit of business, too, before I get into my next question, we've talked about wanting to hear from people. I want to hear from you guys. I have been approached by representatives from 4 counties to expand next year, and I'm only probably going to do one, just because as it is now, it's tough for me to handle all 4, and I don't want to go too crazy with everything. So what I want people to tell me is where they would like me to go. The 4 counties I've heard from are Middlesex, Somerset, Essex, and Passaic. So you, the fans, I want you to tell me, this is your teams, your counties, your site. You send me the messages. Tell me where you want me to go next. You show me where you want me to go next, and I'll do my best to get it done. Be a majority rules, and I'll post that up as we get going. Second question I got, and I'm not giving names to this because there's been a bunch of people who have asked me this. Do I get along with all the coaches and people I deal with? No. Does anybody? I mean, we all have a common interest, but there's certain coaches that, and I'm not going to name names. So if you were expecting me to name names, shame on you. No, there's a couple, there's some people I deal with that we love the sport of wrestling. We deal with it professionally, but would I ever grab a beer with them, or would I ever be hanging out with them outside the sport of wrestling? No. There's other ones I do. Like, for example, there's a lot of coaches, and you'll see at Wild West on Friday night, a lot of us all talking and getting together, just kind of talking about the wrestling, and there's a lot. So I mean, if you have a love for something, obviously you're gonna keep it in the same realm. So a lot of the coaches I do get along with. There's a few I don't, but we all love wrestling. We all want to promote it, so we're all on the same team. We're all on the same path, and kind of doing that way. All right, now it's time. We're gonna throw it to an interview. A man I highly respect. I've talked to him a lot at different matches. He always comes over and says hello, asks me how I'm doing, asks me how's my wife doing. And we've chatted numerous times, and he's also a big proponent of what I do with the All-Star match. Gets me the referees for the All-Star match, and knows what we're doing, and has the love of the sport, and is a man who's getting honored the last few years with inductions in the Hall of Fame, the great Vinny Russo. And this is an interview I conducted with him during Region 3 this past weekend. We are here on the site of Region 3 at West Orange, and I am here with a man who, surprisingly, is a referee most people don't have a bad word about, the great Vinny Russo. Thank you for joining me, taking some time out of your day.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here. It's a great day for wrestling. Regions are always my favorite part of the year, sometimes even better than the state tournament, because of the fact of when you get a good semifinal in the regions, there's nothing like it.
Talk about your history for a lot of people who don't know. They see you around the match, just your history in wrestling and how you got your start.
Well, believe it or not, I started out as a coach at West Essex High School, where my brother Guy, who was a state champ for West Essex in 1982, I was the assistant coach there for 3 years. But I felt my passion was in officiating wrestling matches. That's where I was drawn in a very strong manner. And at that point, I decided to become a wrestling official, and that was in 1985 or so, maybe 1984. And I've been officiating ever since then, so was that almost over 30 years, 35 years, 36 years. And it really is my passion. Now I am in charge of all the referees in the state of New Jersey. I'm the chief official, as they say. And I just enjoy my job. I enjoy getting other officials better. And I've instituted the numbers on the backs of all the referees about 5 or 6 years ago, because I felt there was a strong need for people to know who the referees were, because people didn't know their names. Mm-hmm. But with numbers in their back, it gave everyone an opportunity to learn and write the number down and ask who that ref was in their match last night. But more importantly, I instituted 32 evaluators throughout the state. Now, the officials don't know where the evaluators are. And I like it better that way, because you want to catch a referee when he doesn't know he's being evaluated. That shows the true person. Mm-hmm. And it's worked very well, because the cream has come to the top. I'll tell you, I've assigned referees to districts and regional and state tournaments that I would never know their names in a million years without the evaluation process.
Now, you talk about the evaluation process as the assigner. How does that, I know that they'll give recommendations, such like that. How would, for example, and we're here at Region 3, how would you go about assigning the official for a Region 3? Is it location? Is it the general area? Do you have referees from other areas? Because I know we were at the Morris County tournament. I saw a lot of Southern Jersey referees. How does it work that there's different referees from different areas?
Okay, I believe strongly in you should have no affiliation to the school you're officiating at. And I also like the fact that it's nice to have a different flavor of officials where the coaches don't know who they are, so there's no sense of favoritism or maybe something that's not inherent, that you might want to make a call for a guy. When you don't know the coach, you're not making any call, no way, no how. And I like the feeling of that, because it gives every single person the feeling of comfort that this guy here is just calling the match.
Now, what makes a good referee? If you could put together a great referee, obviously they're going to walk out of the gym hated by half the crowd. That just seems to be the latest. More than half. What makes a good referee? What's the top? You said the cream rises to the top and such like that. What have you noticed consistently amongst those referees rising to the top?
Well, there's a few very, very strong features that a referee must attain. And when I say must attain, I mean that very strongly. They must attain these features. Number one, they must have ice in their veins. They can't listen to the crowd. They can't have rabbit ears. They must be able to go out there and, no matter what situation, block out the crowd, block out the coaches, and just officiate the match. To be a full-rounded official, you must be able to call stalling efficiently, effectively, and with confidence. The phone calls that I get from coaches around the state every day all fall in the same category of the referee was not consistent with his stall calls. And that's something I've been working on for the last 10 years. And it's a very, very hard thing to create consistency on, because some people don't want to make that big stall call. They just don't have it in their blood to do it. It takes a very, very tough guy to be able to stand up and know in his heart that that guy is stalling in a 3-2 match in the state semifinals and make that call even though he knows he's going to get booed for it. And when I say a tough guy, I don't mean being tough. I mean having the fortitude to dig deep down into your heart and make that call in a manner that it's right for the match, and it has to be done. Most officials, I would say 90% of the officials will never have full respect from their peers, the crowd, or the coaches. It's about only 10%, that's where the cream comes to the top, where they walk into a gymnasium and people will run up to them to talk to them, to greet them.
That's like you today.
Thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's a very, very small percentage of officials that have garnished the respect from the crowd and coaches and fans. It takes years, and like I said, 90% will never attract that feature.
Now, I know obviously with refereeing, I've seen a lot of older referees, but now there's an influx of trying to get the young referees, the cadets. What do you guys do to kind of reach out? Because I don't think a lot of people realize that most, if not all, referees have some sort of wrestling background as wrestlers. What would be a way, if I was a young guy or if I was somebody who maybe my mid-20s, I want to get involved in refereeing, how would I get involved with that?
Mark Sherman is the state cadet supervisor for all the cadets. We also have 7 other chapter cadet supervisors, and Mark coordinates all of them. All you need to do is talk to any wrestling official if you want to become a ref, and that wrestling official will steer you in the right direction for the cadet supervisor in that said chapter or that said area. And it's very, it's not that hard of a course. It's a 2-year class. It takes, I think it's 17 meetings. You must make 12 out of the 17 meetings for 2 years, and then there's a test at the end of the second year. You're then able to referee varsity matches. The first 2 years you can do middle school, youth, and JV matches only.
Now, I know, following up on that, we've used them on my all-star matches a couple times. We brought some cadets out, so it's always good to see the experience and have them learn. And it's always nice to see somebody who started out as a cadet with you, a few years ago at an all-star match. Now you see them at a high school match. It's really kind of cool to see that progression.
It's great to see the guys grow.
Yeah.
I enjoy that. It just makes me feel good that I can see a cadet from the year 2010 and then fast forward 10 years and he's doing the state tournament. He's in the semifinals of the states because he's learned and he's been taught by the right people. And right now we have a very, very strong group of cadet supervisors in place. Everything is really working like clockwork at this point.
Switching gears a little bit, a lot of people understand there was a controversy a few years ago. I know you can't get too much into it. I don't want to do crazy about it, but the controversy that happened, if you don't know what I'm talking about, there was an issue in South Jersey. Look it up. We're not going to go into specifics. How would you, if you were in that situation as a referee, how would you have handled it? Not critiquing anything, but how would you, if you were the person there, done that, to handle that situation?
I don't want to skirt the question, but I'll answer it this way. Sometimes it's better not to have the hair cut on the edge of the mat. And I'm very familiar with the entire story and the entire situation and the players involved in the situation. And I feel bad for the way this all happened to unfold. It's quite unfortunate for the official. What he did was he used the rule book as his guide, and he, in his opinion, he recognized that the hair was too long and did not suffice the rule of the proper length of the hair. And he gave the coach the option of getting the right headpiece, the proper headgear with the net inside, or cut the hair, or he would have to forfeit. So he gave him 3 options. There wasn't just one option given to cut the hair. And the coach opted to cut the hair, and the trainer did it for him. So what I would have done differently, maybe I wouldn't do it on the edge of the mat. Maybe I would have started the injury clock and say, bring that into the locker room, so that way it wouldn't be obvious to the crowd and everything. Because in this day and age, people do like to film everything. So I think that's maybe what I would have done differently. But in my opinion, he did do it by the rule. The hair didn't, from what he saw, the hair did not conform to the rule. And in my opinion, he did what had to be done.
I mean, I've debated this with a lot of people because my family knows I'm involved in wrestling, and they'll ask me. And in full disclosure, I have a nephew who's mixed, so he's half Jamaican. So my sister always asks, "Could that happen?" I said, "Yeah, that's the rule." I said the biggest difference is that's happened numerous times. I said I remember being in 1995 having the dry shave with a Bic razor before I went out because I had a little stubble. So there's always this seems to be a way of it's more of a optic now. Well, this is what it was, and this is what it means, and nobody actually investigates. They just see a clip real quick on YouTube or Facebook or something. They think, oh, this is just a horrible referee destroying, situation. They don't understand this is the rule books, and it's just funny to me that with the way everything happens is. This is the rules. You want people to enforce the rules, but then if they enforce the rules, they're mad if it doesn't go their way.
They've been cutting hair to abide by the rule for the last 40 or 50 years. That rule's been in place. It hasn't changed until this past year. They did change the rule now because of what happened. But when the incident took place, the rule that has been in existence for 50 years was in existence.
Well, I mean, that's the same thing with New Jersey. I think there's other states where they passed the law about natural hair, as they thought
California just did it last month.
And that's what they took the issue as, and it had nothing to do, because I remember, like I said, going back to the 90s, we would sit there and Coach Reynolds would have the clippers, and you'd be shaving kids like sides of hair, and it was everybody.
It's a very common event. This is nothing out of the ordinary, nothing to be alarmed about. It happens all the time.
But like you said, it seems to be this new era, almost like the TMZ world, where everybody has to film everything, and they take the first look.
And, the coach, from what I saw on the clip, I was not there live, but what I saw, the coach was making a little fuss, and then people started making a little fuss, and that's what caused the problem. And it really should not have been a problem. If the hair didn't conform, he has 3 choices, like I said, and that's it.
Yeah. And the one thing I had heard too was people said that the cap that they wanted to wear wasn't an official approved. It was more of a wrap than it was as more of like a head wrap, more like a trying to think of the proper term, almost like a Scully wrap type thing, where it wasn't an official.
Correct. Now, from what I understand, and this is just a rumor that I've heard, is that the referee asked the wrestler in the locker room after examining the hair of all the wrestlers, do you have the proper headpiece? And the wrestler said, yes, it's on the gym floor. I have it. The referee took that for granted. So maybe that was another mistake, that maybe he should have asked for it in the locker room to see it.
And inspect it.
Yes, exactly.
Now, let's turn the topic something a little more fun and more of honoring your career. This year, you were inducted into the Morris County Hall of Fame, and you're going to be inducted a little later today to the Region 4 Hall of Fame. Talk about that, just what that means, because, it's such a rarity, not only being a Hall of Fame, but to be recognized by multiple areas. I know you're a big proponent in Morris, and I loved your speech at Morris, talking about everything, about how good Morris has become. Just, your thoughts on the Hall of Fame and the achievements you're seeing.
Well, I hope to think I'm a very humble guy, and it's a very tough topic for me to talk about. I am not a self-promoter, so to say, but to put it in layman's terms, there's no better feeling in the world than to be recognized in a sport or a profession that you've done for years, and to be recognized in that in a manner of being put into a Hall of Fame is quite an extraordinary feeling. I was fortunate enough last year to be inducted into my high school Hall of Fame, Bloomfield High School. That was last spring. And then last fall, in September, I was inducted into the National Hall of Fame, the New Jersey chapter of the National Hall of Fame. So it's been quite a run I'm on, and I'm quite humbled and I'm quite appreciative, because I never thought 35 years ago I would be at this level of officiating, and I'm just so happy to be part of it. Wrestling's been a very big part of my life, and I wouldn't trade it in for anything. I run a kitchen and bath remodeling company, and I make it a point of only hiring former wrestlers to work for me. And the reason why I hire former wrestlers is because they're used to dieting. They're used to working out all night, going home starving, and not being able to eat. That takes a special person. When you lose in a wrestling match, you lost in front of all your friends and family and fans, and you lost, not the team. You got pinned, you lost. It also takes a very special person to do that. So, in light of all that, wrestling brings out the best in any young guy. And I really believe it makes a man out of you.
Thank you. Listen, I want to say thank you for your time. On a personal note, you've always been super nice to me. Come over and say the hello, and I give you the joke where I give the elbow when Del Barton was winning the MCTs and you were ref room. The fix is in, but thank you so much. I know you've been a big proponent of the site, and just thank you for taking some time, and congratulations on the Hall of Fame.
Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. We've been friends a long time, and I really enjoyed when I got the phone call from you to say we were going to do this today. I really did enjoy it, and I want to say thank you.
Thank you. Like I said, anything you could do to help promote sport and I can help, it's been a great pleasure.
My pleasure also. Thank you so much.
Thank you again, Mr. Russo, taking the time to talk to us. I know it was a busy weekend for him with running around and trying to get everything done. I joke with him and call him the mayor of wrestling because every time he walks into a gym, everybody's coming up. It's one of the few people who nobody has an issue with from what you've seen. I want to wrap up with I kind of given some people some homework, and I got a ton of responses, so thank you so much. Kind of our Mt Rushmore, and I gave you the 4 teams, and just as a refresher, the 4 teams, since I cover 4 counties, 1 from each, Del Barton, Hunterdon Central, Warren Hills, and Newton. So let me start with Hunterdon Central. Some of them are pretty easy when you look at it. So this is basically more my regular 4. Anything you're starting with Hunterdon Central, you're going to start with Russ Regal, legendary head coach, longest running continuous wrestling tournament with the Hunterdon Central Invitationals in December. Helped establish wrestling, loved it. So he's got to be on there. Tom Gibble, a 2-time state champion in 79 and 81, and he finished second in 1980. More recent one, Gary Dinmore, second in 2002 to 2014, 4-time region champion. And I kind of debated the last one. So, and I kind of saw different people throwing his name in there, so I'm going to go with them. William Bacardi, he was the first one for them in 1962. So I kind of want to give recognition to that. So those are my 4 for Hunterdon Central. Kicking over to Warren Hills. What's actually interesting is Russ Regal could have been considered here, too, because he actually won 2 titles for Warren Hills. But I figured if he was being honored elsewhere, I wanted to keep it simple. So this is where it's hard for me because Warren Hills is such a legendary tradition. And I was getting different names from different people and not to have it be a 30-team thing. So I did something a little different here. I kind of made it family related. So, for example, one family would be the Marinelli family. Enzo won the state title in 1949. Ron won it in 51 and 52, and Art won it in 55 and 56. They have to be mentioned. And just as with Hunterdon Central with their longtime coach, John Goals, the Goals tournament's named after him. That's also the second longest continuous wrestling tournament in the country. Legendary coach there. He's got to be mentioned. The Oberle family. I mean, they're littered throughout the history of this team. Bill won back-to-back titles, 51, 52, and then his son Ben won 85 and 86. So that's another one. Dan Slack, who had a son who recently wrestled there. He was a state champion in 77, the year I was born. Don't mean to age you there, Dan. Sorry about that. And then he was third in 1976. And somebody I actually know personally, Justin Carlos. He was a state champion in 97, 98. He actually was my teammate. I was a senior, and he was a freshman at Warren Hills. So he was also the last champion for Warren Hills. Somebody you kind of wanted to get rolling there. But yeah, those are mine for Warren Hills. Del Barton. I mean, you got to start any conversation with great wrestling with Mike Gray, 4-time state champion, 2003 to 2006. I mean, he's on any list. If he's not a number one, I don't know what you're talking about if you're talking about Del Barton Wrestling. Antonio Mangione, 2-time state champ. He was the first in their school history, 2002, 2003. He was right there. A little overshadowed by Gray, obviously, but Gray kind of took the baton from him and went with it. Somebody who was super impressive, and I mean, you think of what his career was. Pat Glory down at Princeton now, 2-time state champion, 4-time finalist. He lost to Gerard Angelo in the same year he wrestled him in the MCT. He wrestled him 5 or 6 times that year and lost to him late as a freshman, and then made it back to the finals as a sophomore. Seemed to be a little gassed in the final. Had a 5-point lead, lost it, and I think that kind of got him, not that he wasn't taking it serious before, but kind of got him with Dan Warnikoff and those guys, and he started really getting into it and became what he is today. I'm going to throw coaches on there. Brian Stoll and Guy Russo, the duo of them, they're almost a yin and yang to each other with how they are. And if you took one away, I don't know how well the team would have done, especially this year and previous season. Each one kind of has a way to do it and talk to somebody and, kind of make it that way. And somebody I kind of slept on, and, I think a lot of people did too, and he's just been having a great career, and I'm going to really enjoy watching him wrestle this weekend, is Anthony Clark. I mean, you're talking about a guy who's a 2-time state champion. He made the finals last year. He's in that era right there with Glory, and you don't see a lot about him. Like, he's good, but he doesn't seem to be that guy that a lot of people talk about, and I think we're sleeping on a really great career from him. So that's my Del Barton. And then Newton. Now, this is tough because I knew this was going to be hard. Newton's got such a history, and Newton was one of the top programs in the 40s and 50s, and I mean, they were there pre-regions. So please don't argue. Please, if you want to argue, we can, but these are just my personal opinion. The Frey family, Don and Doug, Don won it from 47 to 49. Doug won it 48-49. You got to talk like that. The Lanzi family, Joe won it in 1945. Harry won it 40, 60, 48, and Ed won it in 50. Another great family and just the hard work and dedication. Bill Dolan, a 3-time state champion, 47 to 49. He's somebody you got to mention there. Henry Borsch, legendary coach. Some people call him the father of wrestling. They have the Borsch duels every year at Newton, which actually North Hunterdon won this year. And, he's somebody I would put on there. And here's somebody I'd put on there not only for his accomplishments on the map but off. Andy Iliff. He was the last champ for them, 86 and 87. But what he's done with coming back and being a coach and helping out, and not only that, his legacy with his family, with his daughter Ashley, who is a big proponent of the women's wrestling movement we have going on with with girls states and such, and her ability to give back, and just her doing what she had done for her college career and now coaching. A big thank you to Coach Iliff for just him being on there and just his legacy as well. But those are my Mount Rushmores. If you like him, let me know. If you hate him, let me know. I tried to compile them and see what everybody said. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting, it's an interesting debate because I think everybody kind of has their favorites, and I'm sure they'll, especially with some of these legendary long-time programs like Warren Hills and Newton, there's going to be a little debate on who people think they are and where they should be. But it'll be a fun debate. But remember, like I said, it's all in fun. Have some fun, and enjoy yourselves. Nobody do anything stupid this weekend down in States. Just go down there, enjoy the wrestling, and once again, wrapping it up. Thank you so much to Mr. Russo for taking the time. Pick which county you want me to go into next: Passaic, Essex, Somerset, or Middlesex. Let me know, and I'll have my predictions up in the next day or so. I think we're going to be doing also one down in States. We're going to do some After states, once it gets rolling, we'll do kind of a daily wrap up when we'll get on each one. And I think we're going to do one right after the finals. Maybe we'll get like a champion on or two. We'll see how it plays out. Certain places don't want me to cover because they think they got exclusive rights. Ugh. But for everybody, thank you so much. And I'm Donald J. Brower. I'll see you this weekend in States.